Once upon a time, there was a president named Bill Clinton, who was, by most historical standards, a typical centrist Republican, although, by a fluke of geography and circumstances, he ran for public office with a D after his name. Under his administration, many conservative ideas which had long gathered dust on the shelf, ideas such as welfare reform, a balanced budget, debt reduction, a strict pay-as-you-go fiscal regime, a boom in technology jobs, budget surpluses, NAFTA, GATT, official bans on gay marriage, etc., were finally realized. And for all of his good work on behalf of their ideology, conservatives spent 8 long years treating Bill Clinton, a southern white Christian man, as if he were a case of flesh-eating nuclear syphilis, because he did not run for office with an R after his name. And because he did not run for office with an R after his name, according to the leading voices in the Republican Party and the conservative movement, Bill Clinton was, in no particular order, a Hitler, a socialist, a rapist, a warmonger, a serial murderer, and a drug dealer, whose presidency was somehow vaguely illegitimate. And counterpointing the 24/7 slime campaign, there were those endless hearings, Whitewater, travel office, Christmas card lists, Lincoln bedroom, etc. ad nauseum. Or don't you remember? "He was not my president," said Oliver North. "He was warned not to set foot in my state" by Jesse Helms. His picture was used for target practice by G. Gordon Liddy. From the American Prospect, it's worth remembering just how virulent the opposition to Clinton's presidency was. Republicans began plotting to impeach Clinton long before anyone had ever heard the name Lewinsky, and many on the right simply refused to accept that he legitimately occupied the office he held. Then House Majority Leader Dick Armey, when talking to Democrats, used to refer to Clinton as "your president." It was a warped, hysterical campaign, funded by wealthy right-wing thugs like Richard Mellon Scaife, and propagated by wealthy right-wing thugs like Rupert Murdoch, who made sure the lies were jackhammered into the headlines day after day, year after year. And judging by its objectives, it was also a very successful campaign. It legitimized and metastasized hate speech on talk radio, killed the credibility of the objective media once and for all, made the overt mass slander of political opposition by the right acceptable, moved radicals, militia nuts, bigots, creationists, and Limbaugh zombies to the center of the Republican Party, accelerated the exodus of reasonable moderates out of the Republican Party, destroyed the possibility of public discourse, and kicked the door open to the use of congressional hearings as instruments of political vendetta. But as successful as it was also an incredibly high-risk strategy, because of a thing called the public record. The public record meant that each and every time a Republican stood up to, say, slam the Democratic commander-in-chief during a time of war, they left a documentary trail wide and bright enough to be visible from space, or from the next election cycle. You can support the troops, but not the president. The president is once again releasing American military might on a foreign country with an ill-defined objective and no exit strategy. He has yet to tell Congress how much this operation will cost. And he has not informed our nation's armed forces about how long they will be away from home. These strikes do not make for sound foreign policy. American foreign policy is now one huge big mystery. Simply put, the administration is trying to lead the world with a feel-good foreign policy. If we are going to commit American troops, we must be certain they have a clear mission, an achievable goal, and an exit strategy. I had doubts about the bombing campaign from the beginning. I didn't think we had done enough in the diplomatic area. Well, I just think it's a bad idea. What's going to happen is they're going to be over there for 10, 15, maybe 20 years. I cannot support a failed foreign policy. History teaches us that it is often easier to make war than peace. This administration is just learning that lesson right now. The president began this mission with very vague objectives and lots of unanswered questions. A month later, these questions are still unanswered. There are no clarified rules of engagement. There is no timetable. There is no legitimate definition of victory. There is no contingency plan for mission creep. There is no clear funding program. There is no agenda to bolster our overextended military. There is no explanation defining what vital national interests are at stake. There was no strategic plan for war when the president started this thing, and there is still no plan today. Explain to the mothers and fathers of American servicemen that may come home in body bags why their son or daughter have to give up their life. Victory means exit strategy, and it's important for the president to explain to us what the exit strategy is. This is President Clinton's war, and when he falls flat on his face, that's his problem. Bombing a sovereign nation for ill-defined reasons with vague objectives undermines the American stature in the world. The international respect and trust for America has diminished every time we casually let the bombs fly. The public record meant that every frivolous Republican witch hunt and every syllable of hate and demagoguery gleefully poured out through public megaphones and megachurch pulpits to malign and demonize the left could potentially represent a thick bar on the cage of any future Republican president's imperial ambitions. Because, after all, should the tables ever turn, should there ever be a Republican president whose election really was suspect, or who really did lie to the American public and flagrantly abuse his office, and did it in ways that cost the nation trillions of dollars and thousands of lives, after spending 8 years establishing a public record in such clear and unambiguous language, what the hell could the right possibly say? After conspiring to bring about two of the most destructive events in modern American history, the impeachment of a U.S. president over trivia, and the probable theft of the subsequent presidential election, to what God could Republicans possibly pray that their 8 years of insanity, venom, and violence might be wholly blotted out? On September 11th, 2001, their dark miracle came winging its way out of a clear blue sky.